Hi, everybody. So, welcome back to another episode. And today, something's a little different. As you can see, I have a camera in front of me. So, I'm going to be posting this onto YouTube so people can join and look at like what I look like, I guess, when I'm recording a podcast episode and the whole setup and everything. So, as you can see, if you're new to my podcast, my name is Shulin and I talk about mental health. So I just have my phone here just so I'm recording like my audio in case my laptop shuts down or something goes wrong. So I have a backup plan. But I also have my notebook here because I jotted down some ideas I want to talk about. And this is my mic and my stand and everything else. I really hope this camera doesn't fail me and it doesn't stop recording suddenly because then I'll have to change the battery. But so far it should be on like fully charged, so it should be okay. So without further ado, let's start. So today I want to be talking about exercise and a little bit about importance of exercise. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm doing this fundraiser. It's not going very well, but then I'm still very confident that it'll get better. But the money isn't really what I'm worried about. It's mostly the awareness issue or spreading the message I'm really worried about. I feel like we're not getting enough reach. And so if you know if you know about my Instagram, you know that I'm running and biking 100 miles, which is equivalent to 160 kilometers for mental health. All the money will go to MindHK, so I won't be keeping any of it, just to put out there. And so, yeah. So basically today I'll be talking about the importance of exercise, and a few other things I want to be talking about is like terminology and just something mental health related because I have a lot of ideas jotted down on the next few pages. So I will be talking about some of those ideas. So first of all, let's talk about the importance of exercise. So for me, I think exercise is extremely important for people, anyone in general, but especially teenagers. Because as a teenager, everything is changing, your body is changing, you have hormonal imbalances. You really need to get that release and that exercise in to release all the stress you're feeling, to release all the negative emotions you're feeling. It might not be extremely successful sometimes, like as in you might not feel the immediate effect after doing exercise, but I swear like long term the exercising will pay off. And for me, I play both basketball, football, and I go to the gym. So that's three like different types of exercises I would say. My favorite is of course going to the gym and playing basketball, but football is up there as well. I'm just not very good at it, and I'm not very good at the gym anyways, but I really like it. So I think for me, having a team sport or having not even a team sport, an individual sport, any type of sport that you can like tune into and like put your mind into regularly really helps out in general. Like anything you're trying to do, like studying in school, studying at home, like imagine doing sports and doing exercise for like 60 minutes and then like being really tired and then going to sleep and then waking up. I mean taking a nap, okay? It's taking a nap and then waking up and then doing your homework. You feel really like energized, you feel really great. So I think that's what matters, is that you have a balance between studying and exercise. I'm not telling you to sign yourself up for a triathlon. I'm not telling you to like run for, I don't know, 200 miles. I'm just telling you to do some exercise, like I would say every 2 or 3 days a week. I would say that's a good start if you want to, but even 1 day a week if you really cannot take 2 or 3 days a week, or if you're someone who doesn't really like exercise. But I would say there's always a sport that would suit you. Like for me, it took me a long time to find basketball. I found basketball in year 7. That's quite a long time for me because a lot of people like find their sport really early on, like when they're in year 2, year 3. But for me, I was fully invested into football for my whole primary career. But during my primary school years, I was fully into football, but afterwards I switched to basketball during years 6 and 7. And then that's when I realized basketball is my sport, and it's a sport that I really enjoy. And by saying my sport, I don't mean the sport that I'm greatest at, the sport that I'm better than everyone at. By saying my sport, I just mean it's a sport that I enjoy the most and the one that I can invest most of my time into. So I think that's a big thing, like finding a sport that you like, finding a sport that you enjoy. So I would say to anyone out there who really can't find a sport, you can even text me. I'll give you some suggestions. Like, I've tried many sports before. I've tried tennis, table tennis, football, basketball. I've tried going to gym. I've tried dancing. I've tried tap dancing. I've tried ballet. I've tried, if you count ballet as a sport, I think it is kind of a sport, but that's for another day. But I've also tried like netball. I've tried swimming. I've tried running. I've tried a lot of sports. So I know a lot of sports and I know which one suits people. I'm not an expert at that, but then I do know, like, I can give you some suggestions as to which sport you might enjoy and what to do if you don't enjoy it. So next thing I want to be talking about is something mental health related. So more of like terminology, that's what I'll be talking about. So before, if you remember, we talked about like the terminology between like committed suicide and just suicide in general. And we also talked about different types of terminology, but I realized I missed one thing out. I missed the terminology, like talk about the terminology between like seeking attention and attention seeking. So both of those, it's really complicated because both of those can mean different things. It depends on what you're trying to say. But most of the time, attention seeking has negative connotations. So it might mean that you're like seeking attention from people that do not want to give you that attention, or people that you're trying to manipulate into giving you that attention. But in that another context, if I say someone who's struggling with self-harm is seeking attention, you might think like, oh, they're like attention seeking. But at the same time, you might think, oh, they're seeking attention, they're asking for help. So which one is it? So this is what I'll be talking about. So first of all, I think seeking attention is more of like less negative, I would say. A lot less negative. So seeking attention could be like just like seeking attention from a taxi driver. Like that's just asking a taxi driver to pull over, right? That's seeking attention from your teacher. That's raising your hand up, right? So that's less negative. But if you say attention seeking, that makes it sound like you're attention seeking and you want attention from your friends, you want attention from your mom when she's like occupied with another sibling. So I would say be careful with your terminology. I would say a person who is struggling with mental health or struggling with self-harm, I would say they are asking for help or could cry for help instead of saying like they're seeking attention, because there's a lot of negative connotations around that. So yeah. Those are two things I wanted to talk about, but I have other ideas I wanted to go over. So I was going to go over something about friends, and I was going to go over something about the difficulties of like managing a friendship when you're struggling with mental health. But then I decided not to do that. Instead, I have another episode I was going to do with a friend, and we're going to talk about music, sports, the school system, and ways to say, are you okay? So first of all, let's talk about ways to say, are you okay? So sometimes you can go straight up to someone and go and say, oh, hi, are you okay? But most of the time, they'll just say yes. Like, personally, sometimes I say no. Sometimes I'm honest because I'm not okay. And so if you ask me if I'm okay, I'll say no. But then at the same time, most people say yes. And personally, like, if someone I'm not close to says, like, asks me if I'm okay and I don't want to share, I would say yes. Like, but however, that's not the best thing to do, I would say. So sometimes the easiest thing to do is just ask again. Like, if you ask them, are you okay? And they really don't look okay, but they say yes, just ask them again. the chances are they'll give you another reaction. They'll be caught off guard and they might like say something different, right? And so I think that's a big thing, like say asking again and making sure they're really, really okay. But even then, like there are other like follow-up questions you can ask. It doesn't just end there. It doesn't just end with, are you okay? You can ask other questions like, how are you doing today? Like, what's up? What did you do over the summer? What did you do over the weekend? And see like how their summer was. And if they start talking about something like low or sad, I had a friend who started talking about like family problems. That's when I realized like they weren't okay. So my camera did end up like stopping and shutting down because it ran out of battery, which I don't understand because it was fully charged. But I switched it to another battery and now it should be running okay. If it stops again, I'll just switch it again. So I'm probably gonna buy a new camera or something like that because this one doesn't really work very well. But anyways, so we were talking about the second point is the difficulties of friendship, I think. So we were gonna talk about some difficulties. I was gonna talk about some difficulties of maintaining a friendship because myself, I have a lot of difficulties with maintaining a friendship. I'm very bad with friendships. I'm not a very good friend. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not the best friend. Like I try very, very hard, but I always end up doing the wrong thing. And so I'll say, like, I'm not the best person to give advice on regarding to how to maintain a good friendship because personally, I try very hard. I try to ask people if they're okay, but I also bother them with my own problems. Like, I've, like, even sometimes, like, my sister says, like, I'm very depressing. Like, I'm very sad all the time. Like, some of my friends say I'm really sad all the time. So, I personally think I'm quite a depressing person. I try to be more happy, and I'm a very energetic person when I'm, like, doing something I love. Like, when I'm playing basketball, I'm going around, I'm asking people how they're doing. I'm telling them, like, good job, good workout. I'm giving them fist bumps. But when we're, like, when I'm at school, for example, when, like, I'm in somewhere where, for me, school is somewhere where I'm very stressed because I really, really like school for the longest period of time because, like, my home life wasn't that great. If you've watched my other episodes, you know why. But anyways, like, I would focus on going to school and getting to school and I'd be really happy there. But now I'm getting to sixth form and it's really like different and I'm not a person that can adapt well to change. So I would say I have been enjoying school a lot less. Like it's been really stressful. And so I'll be talking about like how to manage stress as well in this episode. I hope this episode is not too long. It's been like around 14 minutes now. So I really hope it's not going to be too long for you guys because I want to keep it short and sweet. So you guys can tune into other episodes and do other things. But I heard a lot of my viewers like to listen to my episodes while on the train. So I also hope that I'm talking loud enough because I did have some feedback that I was talking way too quietly and no one could hear what I'm saying. So yes, so I got a new mic. Now this mic should be working well. So anyways, like, ways to say, are you okay? We got through that. So now I'm going to talk about some obligations and some habits into, like, around friendships. So I think as a friend, the basic and the minimum effort the minimum should be that you'll be putting enough effort into your, you should be putting enough effort into like your friendship and maintaining that friendship. So that's putting your 100%, and that's I think is a minimum. Except when you're struggling, because when you're struggling, sometimes you're just unable to put that 100% in. So I would say, that if you're feeling okay, that's even when you're how do I phrase this? Even when you're like feeling unhappy, even when you're feeling sad, you put 100% of what you can possibly put into that. And yes. And so the last thing I'll go over is the school system. I'll be talking about school in general, so not my school. I'll be talking about school in general and what school should improve on. But I don't want to get too deep into that. I want to leave that for another episode. I'll just talk about a little bit about school, and I'll end with talking about music, and I'll go back and talk a bit about sports. So let's talk about the school system. So I think schools in general, most schools have counselors, and I know local schools in Hong Kong, they all have social workers, like an allocated social worker, and some international schools have social workers as well. So I think that's a very good thing in Hong Kong, is that most people have the resources they need. But the problem between the problem and the gap between the resources and the person that needs the help is astronomical. There's a very massive gap between the person that needs help and the resources, because it's an imaginary gap, right? Because it's not, I don't mean an imaginary gap, but it's like a non-tangible gap, I guess. So like you can't really see it, but it's there. And by gap, I don't mean like literally, because it's very easy. Like, think about it. If you want help, go to a social worker. It's in your school. Go to your social worker, find your social worker, and talk to them. But why is that gap so big? So that gap is really big because there's a stigma around asking for help, and there's a stigma around wanting to get help. So I think that's the gap. The gap is a stigma, and the gap is the inability for people and the shame that people feel when they go ask for help. So personally, I've dealt with that. In the start of my journey with mental health, I felt that I was really embarrassed to ask for help. I felt like, oh, what am I doing? Like, I might as well just like, I don't know, like do something stupid rather than go ask for help. And that's when I realized, like, oh no, something's wrong. Something's wrong with the school system. Something's wrong with Hong Kong in general. So when we talk about Hong Kong, right, I'm talking about Hong Kong and not like the entire world, but I'm talking about Hong Kong in general and not internationally. So I think Hong Kong, the biggest problem is that there's a huge stigma around asking for help. And that's why suicide rates in Hong Kong is extremely high. It's extremely high, especially among students. So every few weeks, I go on the news. They won't show on the news because obviously they're not allowed to. But then if you go on like those Instagram, like, or if you go on those websites where they show like those more, those news they're not allowed to show on TV, you'd see that, a 15-year-old girl, a 14-year-old girl, or like a 12-year-old girl just committed suicide by jumping off a building. So you'd see things or hear things that you don't want to see, you don't want to hear, and then you realize, oh, that bridge between getting help is really large. It's really long, and it's really hard to get through. So I'd say like, I'll save this for another episode, but I was going to talk about like how to fix that bridge, how I would suggest to minimize the pain a person has to feel when they go ask for help, or minimize the shame they have to feel when they go ask for help. But that's for another episode, so I'll just talk about the problems here. And that's really it regarding the problems of asking for help. So the next thing I'll talk about is music and sports. So that kind of links back to suicide because music and sports is a big part of my life. I really like music, I really like sports, and it does help a lot of people. I would say there's a lot of areas that you don't focus on in school, but most people excel in like areas that are more like, I would say more niche, if that makes sense. Like areas like, for me, I focus on academics and I focus on sports, and music and arts is something that I focus less on because I'm not very good at it and I don't enjoy it that much. And I enjoy basketball more, and I enjoy football, and I enjoy running. Not that much. I don't really like running that much, but I enjoy doing sports and I enjoy listening to music. When I talk about music, I'm not talking about playing an instrument, right? Like, I'm talking about you can just listen to music. You don't have to analyze or anything. You can just listen to music and just tune in. But if you want to do like, I guess a lot of people when they think they're talking about music, when I'm talking about music, they're talking about instruments. So personally, I do play a few instruments. I play the piano, I play the ukulele, and I play the guitar, but I'm not very good at either of those. So any of those three, I'm not very good at. So I would say it's just finding a balance, just trying something new. So for me, I found my sport, but I haven't found my musical instrument yet. I've just found loads of instruments I want to try. So I've tried the piano, I've tried like keyboards, it's the same thing, but then it's a little different. But then you've got like the sound effects and stuff like that. And I've tried ukulele, I've tried guitar, I've tried the violin, and I couldn't really figure out which one I liked. I think I like the guitar and ukulele the most, but it changes a lot, and I still don't like it that much, as in like I won't play it every week. I'll play it like once a month or like twice a month because I don't like it that much. So I'll say to just do what you enjoy, but also know that you don't start off, like it takes a bit of effort to realize what you enjoy and to enjoy something. Like it takes a lot of effort to enjoy something, because you can't expect to go into a sport when you're 16 and realize everyone is well ahead of you and then enjoy the sports. Some people can, because if you're not playing competitively, you can. You can just go downstairs, play at home, and then realize like, oh, that sport is amazing. But at the same time, if you want to play competitively, you realize you have a long way to catch up. So give some time, and then you start enjoying it. So I'm going to read the script for this because I don't really have a long script. I only have notes. And then I have the disclaimers and the intro written down. So I'm sorry, I'm yapping a lot. So I just usually write down a few notes and I'll just keep talking about it. And then I'll yap about it and I'll just go on by what I have in mind. But before I end this episode, I would just really like to thank you all for listening. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can add your suggestions, feedback in my Instagram bio. And I've also started to share some mental health tips and share updates on my website and newsletter. But that's currently a little, like, slightly, like, unavailable, I would say. Like, I don't update it that much, but I'm looking to update it a lot more. So if you would like to submit anything and if you would like to talk to me or give me some advice, because this is my first time podcasting in, like, half a year. So I don't even know if my setup is correct, right? So I don't even know what I'm doing most of the time. So I'm just trying something new. I'm just going with what I have. So yeah. I'm also, like what I mentioned in the start of the episode, I have a fundraiser. So I would really, really appreciate it if you could go to my Instagram bio and check that out. You don't have to donate. You don't have to do anything. Just check it out. Share it with a friend. Share it with your family. And that would mean a lot, because my main goal is to raise awareness and not to raise money. So I'd like to raise awareness about the cause. I like to raise awareness about like what people are trying to do regarding mental health. And also, I would also appreciate it if you could listen to my other episodes and share those with your friends that might be interested in mental health as well. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. I hope you listen to my other episodes, and I hope you have an amazing day. An awesome day, sorry. Bye.